Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. I am the Reverend Dr. Stephen Gaines, minister of this eclectic congregation. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. We uphold the unity of our interconnections, connections to each other, to all of life, and to the precious universe of which we are a part. We affirm the universality of love and hope as we journey together in community, and we welcome you, whoever you are at this moment and wherever you are in your journey. For those joining us for the first time online, please check out our website, uufayetteville.org, for more information and to sign up to receive the weekly email if you want. For those visiting us here in person today, you will find in the seat back in front of you, depending on your row, a visitor information card that we'd love for you to fill out so we can get you on the email list and keep you informed of UUFF happenings. And of course, you can always unsubscribe if you want. So baskets will be passed around in just a few minutes during the Joys and Concerns time. At that time, you'll have the opportunity to put cards like this in the basket. So you can go ahead and start filling those out so you don't have to rush then. But of course, you don't have to. This is completely optional. And if you are on Facebook, if you're watching on Facebook, you can submit a joy or concern in the comments there. Just know that that is public. Children are fully welcome here. If your child gets a little noisy or extra fidgety, we are fine with that. You and they may stay in here or step out if you prefer. The choice is yours. We do have a staffed nursery available downstairs. And yes, I think, are Sean and Alex both down there? Okay. I was going to introduce Alex to you, but that can wait. Thank you for joining us for this service. Now Gabe and Maddie will light our chalice.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant.
Like raindrops in my soul, I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got strength like a mountain. I've got strength like a mountain. Got strength like a mountain in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. Yay! You may be seated. Yay!
Good morning, one and all. Our story for today is called The Curious Garden. I wonder if you've ever thought of when you get into a difficult or unfamiliar situation, you can choose fear or you can choose to be curious. I've heard people give that advice before, and I think it's good advice. But have you ever thought about plants in that regard? Because sometimes plants pop up in unfamiliar places. Do they too have to choose whether to be fearful or curious? Something to think about. The Curious Garden. There once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Can you all see that picture pretty well? Do we need to get the lights maybe? Carol, can we get light? Can we get the light so they can see? Because the illustrations are pretty cool. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days, while everyone stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through his neighborhood. And it was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. And the railway had stopped working ages ago. And since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. Liam ran up the stairs and pushed open the door and stepped out onto the railway. The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last thing he had expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying, like my azaleas in this heat. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems, but the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. It's a process, right? Any gardeners in here? I know we have some gardeners in here. It's a process. As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move, always, right? They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by the more delicate plants. Over the next few months, Liam and the curious garden explored every corner of that railway. Anybody ever see like plants and stuff popping up in abandoned places? And it's so cool to see. It's like one of my favorite things. It's another cool pic. All right, after spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he had become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. Rather than waste his winter worrying about that garden, Liam spent time preparing for spring. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden. But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring it was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway, and they were closely followed by more delicate plants. The garden was especially curious about old, forgotten things. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising thing that popped up was the new gardeners. So Liam inspired others to garden. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed, but of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. Pretty cool. Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Marty Fatak. We are a community, and as a community, what affects one of us affects all of us. If you have joys or concerns that you would like to have read from the pulpit this morning, please fill out the yellow card and place it in the basket that's coming around, and then I will read it for you. If you are online and you would like to have a joy or concern read, please put that in the comments section. Please join me for a moment of silent meditation as we consider these joys and sorrows and the other ones that the introverts of us held in our hearts. And I think our surprise soloist is getting warmed up. Thank you.
Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to a home on that celestial shore. I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away.
That was good, Rev Stephen. That was good.
Thank you. I grew up singing Christian hymns, and they stuck in me. Sometimes they spontaneously burst forth now, sometimes as full songs, sometimes as a few lines or just a few words, sometimes as humming. Even if I no longer agree with their theologies, these hymns of my childhood shaped my identity. I sometimes sing or hum, I come to the garden alone, or Amazing Grace. Sometimes I sing or hum, I'll fly away. It also reminds me of my dad. Daddy didn't like singing, probably because he thought he wasn't good at it. He participated in congregational singing, barely, and he liked to joke, I sing solo. So low you can't hear me. There was one song that my dad would sing, that he would sing out loud, but only in the car with family. On road trips, when he really needed to find a restroom, sometimes he would sing, some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll float away. That's one of many versions of this traditional hymn, one line of it. And I've chosen to explore this hymn with you this morning. I'll tell a little of its history and talk about its message, and then I will summarize a couple of reactions to the hymn and end with a few implications for us. First is the history. I'll Fly Away was written by Albert E. Brumley in 1929. A music website called Honky Tonks, Hymns and the Blues states that Brumley was born in 1905 in Spiro, Oklahoma. At various times in his life, he worked as a cotton farmer, piano tuner, and grocery store clerk. Prior to his songwriting career, he attended the old Hartford Musical Institute at Hartford, Arkansas, and sang with the Hartford Quartet. Later, he taught singing schools in various parts of the Ozarks. Brumley was a staff writer for Gospel's famed Hartford and Stamps Baxter publishing companies. In 1943, he established Albert E. Brumley and Sons Music Company. In 1948, he purchased the Hartford Music Company, and it's estimated that the songs of Albert E. Brumley have been printed 15 million times in sheet music and hymn songbooks. And after I did this research and wrote my notes, I was still learning, and I found a newspaper article from several years ago that made it clear to me why some of the language in this, what I just read, seems so familiar to me. Brumley and I both grew up in the Churches of Christ. I didn't know that until yesterday or this morning. That website that I just read from also says that I'll Fly Away is the most recorded song in the history of gospel music. And the song has been performed and modified by countless artists. A quick online search indicates that those performers include the Chuck Wagon Gang, Bob Marley, Alison Krauss, Jars of Clay, Andy Griffith, Kanye West, Johnny Cash, Alan Jackson, Randy Travis, Willie Nelson, and a bunch of others. The song also has been in several TV shows and movies, such as Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and a recent biopic about Elvis Presley. And according to the Catholic website Aletheia, the hymn continues to be published in hymnals and remains a popular hymn in the worship services of Baptists, Pentecostals, Nazarenes, the Churches of Christ, and many Methodists. That's a little of the hymn's history. Now, what does the hymn say? With such a dynamic history, the hymn's lyrics have several versions. Here's one. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, missing the V to go with shore, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. Yes, I did change that to that celestial shore. I'll fly away. When the shadows of this life have grown, I'll fly away. Like a bird from prison bars has flown, I'll fly away. Oh, how glad and happy when we meet, I'll fly away. No more cold iron shackles on my feet, I'll fly away. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away. To a land where joys shall never end, I'll fly away. And the chorus after each verse says, I'll fly away, oh glory, I'll fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by, I'll fly away. I grew up singing that song. It was a song of hope, a song about a future, an afterlife when I would fly away from this miserable life, escape the trials and tribulations of this world, and live forever in heaven. And that kind of thinking has led some to ignore the needs and concerns of this life. According to Presbyterian minister Peter Molker, such thinking prompted Anthony the Great and others to move in the 3rd century to the Egyptian desert to seek a deeper spiritual life in complete isolation from others. And in the 6th century CE, Benedict of Nursia, considered the father of Western monasticism, taught that monks should grow spiritually to the point that they can cope single-handedly without the help of others against the vices of the flesh and evil thoughts. According to Pastor Molker, in this understanding, the goal of Christian discipleship is to achieve a spiritual life which consists in complete removal and flight from the world to do battle with sin and Satan in isolation from all others. And that escapism has led to more harmful perspectives. For example, 20th century British theologian John Stott wrote of a student saying, if we start feeding hungry people, things won't get worse. And if things don't get worse, Jesus won't come.
Oh my God.
The desire to escape this world can lead to mistreatment of the world. But I grew up with an escapist theology. I grew up singing about flying away to heaven. And then I read the Christian Bible's book of Revelation and found the idea of heaven coming to earth instead of people flying to heaven. And then I discovered Unitarian Universalism, where we actively work toward a here and now kind of heaven. And we're not alone in this. I want to summarize a couple of Christian responses to the hymn, and one of them is exactly this here and now approach. Anglican Bishop N.T. Wright has substantially popularized this idea of heaven coming to earth, and Pastor Malker, whom I cited earlier, writes from that perspective and offers 3 points in reaction to the I'll fly away escapist theology. And I'll translate 2 of those points into UU language for us. First is not fear, but for. Not fear, but for. Instead of being afraid of the world around us, we should live for the world. Second is not flight, but fight. Not flight, but fight. Instead of fleeing this world's problems, we should fight to improve the world. So one Christian response to I'll fly away is that we don't need to fly away. Instead, we need to care for the world. Another response is found in something written by psychologist and theologian Richard Beck. He was volunteering in prison ministry, and inmates asked to sing I'll Fly Away. And at that time, his thinking was kind of like mine was a few years ago, where I thought, great, I don't agree with this theology anymore. But the inmates wanted to sing this song, and that changed his understanding of the song. Dr. Beck wrote, I understand the criticism. Where is the whole may your peace be done on earth as in heaven? Quotation from Scripture, the Bible, Christian Bible. Where is the vision of the New Jerusalem coming down from heaven to earth in Revelation 21 to 22? It does seem like I'll fly away is pointing us away from this world in anticipation of the next. The song suggests that the whole goal and aim of the Christian life is to fly away from this world to the next. But here's what I found in prison. I'll Fly Away is one of their favorite songs. We sing it every week, and it's not hard to see why, particularly if you recall the second verse. When the shadows of this life have grown, I'll fly away like a bird from prison bars has flown. I'll fly away. And the third verse speaks to the bleakness of prison life as well. Just a few more weary days and then I'll fly away. The point is, while I get the theological criticism of I'll fly away, the song sounds completely different in prison. Because here's the deal. Does I'll fly away make any sense when it's sung by rich people of power and privilege? I mean, what the heck are you flying away from? Life in suburbia? The caramel macchiatos at Starbucks? The vacations at the beach? The fact that you have clean water, indoor plumbing, central heating and air, and 2 cars? But when I'll Fly Away is sung by people who are quite literally imprisoned or oppressed, then the song is less about flying off to the pearly gates than a commentary about the world around us. I'll Fly Away can be an indictment and lament about the status quo. There is a prophetic aspect to I'll Fly Away that privileged people generally miss. Having never suffered slavery, oppression, or imprisonment, we can't hear the lament in I'll Fly Away. So, of course, when the privileged sing the song, it sounds theologically shallow. The privileged shouldn't be trying to fly away. They should be worrying about the injustices at the gate.
That's right.
Thank you, Dr. Beck. Now, what can we get from all this? Unitarian Universalists draw from many sources. That's why our services always vary. Some draw from Buddhism, some from humanism, some from paganism, some from Judaism, some from other traditions, such as Christianity. Unitarian Universalists also value free thought and enjoy critical thinking. And we need to be careful when we think and speak of various religious traditions. We need to be free to analyze and critique, and we need to do so respectfully. Yes, I'm speaking to myself as well here. And that's why I have let this message so far be primarily a conversation between Christian perspectives. We've learned from Christians interacting with Christians. But what is there in all this for those of us who aren't Christians? Escapist theology isn't just a Christian experience. The desire to escape is present in many traditions. We might not want to fly away to some unseen heaven somewhere in the sky, but we might have an urge to spend time with people like us instead of getting deeply engaged in changing the world. You may have noticed this. The world has problems. Racial inequalities, climate crises, economic chaos, food insecurities, homelessness, the list could go on and on. Our story for all ages this morning was The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. The story begins, there once was a city without gardens or trees or greenery of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. By the end of the story, we find transformation. And Liam gets to be part of that transformation because he has spent time outside, paid attention to the world around him, and done what he could to help. And if we read between the lines, we might find Liam sharing his passion with others. Instead of flying away from the world, let's embrace the world and work together to help it. Let's work together for environmental sustainability and other good things this world needs. There's a lot we can do. And a starting point is to be present and pay attention. Then we can take action and share the work with others. Some of us already do that. The Justice team frequently gives us ideas in the Justice Spotlight in the weekly e-news. And some of us share relevant information on social media. I saw something like that just this morning. May that sharing encourage more action. But let's not forget the other way of interpreting the hymn. The imprisoned and those of us who experience other oppression may find hope in the dream of flying away. Sometimes we need to sing about escaping whatever hell we're in. And when that happens, may you find someone here to sit with you, to scream with you, to act for you, because that's what community does.
Let's everybody go ahead and stand up. I want to share with you that I have social anxiety, and my favorite thing to do with this song is when I'm at a party, I say, some glad hour when this party's over, I'll fly away. Anyway, sorry, I just had to share that with you. Okay, let's sing it. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to that home on that celestial shore. do the first verse one more time. Some glad morning when this life is o'er, I'll fly away to that home on that celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. Very, very good. You may be seated. Excellent. Good singing. That was great. While Gabe and Maddie are coming up to extinguish the chalice, I'll tell you that the festival I just went to, I saw several other music directors there, and I got to brag that our congregation was such a singing congregation. And they said, oh, I wish our congregation sang more. And I was like, maybe you should come to Arkansas and see what it's like. So anyway, thanks for singing. Go ahead, y'all.
All right. Well, this is a great service, and now we're going to extinguish this chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. By the way, I like to brag to my friends about my church too.
That was great.
The important work of this fellowship is possible because of generous contributions of time, energy, and money. If you're visiting, we don't expect anything from you. You're our guest, and we're glad you're here. If you're a member, this is one way to participate in our work of love, peace, and justice in this community. Every contribution of every size is helpful and appreciated. As we pass the offering baskets, we invite you to share financially. If you prefer, you may give online at UUFayetteville.org or mail checks to our office. As the baskets are passed, announcements will be on the screen. They're also in the order of service. I'll highlight one announcement. Is one announcement highlighted?
I think it's the potluck and the after.
Okay,
and the
right
thing.
after this service, we'll have a potluck and a planning session.
This week, may you experience freedom from whatever hell holds you down. And if possible, maybe you can even find a way to help someone else fly away from their prison bars. Renee has our postlude. Feel free to sit, stand, move around, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. May the circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. There's a greater home around us than in the sky, than in the sky. May the circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. There's a greater home around us than in the sky, than in the sky. May the circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. There's a greater home around us than in the sky, oh, than in the sky. May the circle be unbroken by and by, oh, by and by. The great